Good day, everybody, and welcome to another version of High Heat. Liberty Mutual, of course. Nice to have with us with our good buddies today, Rich Savino and Moses Mussina, as we chat. We look forward to a conversation with our good buddy Darryl Strawberry, #1 pick a long time ago, 40 years ago, as we chat. Darryl, nice to talk. Always a pleasure. How are you today, okay?
I'm doing good, Chris. Good to be with you. How you doing?
All right. I was very fortunate that the other night on the MLB Network, they had the Red Sox-Met Game 7 on. You hit the homer against Nipper in the 8th inning. For whatever the reason, I was 26 years of age in Orlando. Who knows what I was doing? I was watching the game, but I was 6, we remember. I did not remember how tight that Game 7 was. I knew Hurst had a 3-0 lead. You guys were in trouble in the bottom of the 6th inning, and then Evans hit a big 8th inning double to make it 6-5. They had a tying run at second base with nobody out. So the Red Sox had a chance to tie that 7th game in the 8th inning before your homer in the bottom half. Didn't realize that game was that tight. Give me some thoughts on that for a second.
Oh, no question about it. I mean, that game was tight. When you think of Hurst, he was pitching a phenomenal game, and he was leading the game. And everybody always talk about Game 6, but we had to come back for Game 7 also. So we were a team of destiny, always coming back that year, and we had to come back and win a lot of big games. And that game was no different than games that we had sat in before. I think that's what made us so good and so comfortable with ourselves, because we knew that we could come back and win a ball game. But Boston had a chance to close out the game, just like they did Game 6, Game 7, but they didn't close us out. And we were that type of team that you had to close out. If you didn't close us out and you left a little crack or window open for us, we pretty much was going to walk through it. I mean, that's just how good we were that year.
And you hit a big homer against Nipper, bottom of the 8th. Give the Mets a little breathing room, Darryl. I'm sure you remember it pretty well. Let's talk about it. Go ahead.
Well, no question about it. I mean, he hung a breaking ball, left it out over the plate, and I finally got a good swing, off a pitch in the World Series. And I was just happy to be able to contribute to the ball club and put us in a situation to make it a little bit more comfortable going into the 9th inning. That ball game was very special for all of us, as a group, not just one player, but for us to come back so much as a team. And I think that's what's so important about good teams. They know how to come back, and if you can't believe in yourself of coming back, you can never win big ball games.
I was shocked he brought Schiraldi in the 7th inning. He had blown the game the night before. 3-3 bottom of the 7th, Ray Knight, and here's Calvin Schiraldi. How about some thoughts there? Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, well, of course, I mean, Schiraldi couldn't really get nobody out the night before, Game 6, and I think it just set the table up again. Everybody felt comfortable, I guess, spacing a guy like him, because they knew he had a fastball and a slider, and you just had to lay off slide the hard slider and look for the fastball to be up. And a lot of times people were waiting for that, and they got good swings on, him, and very patient, when you think about it. I mean, he had 2 opportunities to close this out, but he couldn't.
Couldn't do it. Yeah, all right. How about you now? 40 years ago, #1 pick. Did you know you were going to be the #1 pick in 1980? Had the Mets talked to you an awful lot? I'm sure Cashin made the pick. I think he probably was there at the time. Maybe he wasn't. Give me some thoughts. #1 pick out of Crenshaw High School there in 1980. Go ahead.
It was an exciting day going to school. My mom dropped me off at school, and I was just really excited about the draft and really hoping that I would get drafted somewhere. I didn't know where, but the Mets have spoke to me during the course of the baseball season, and the pick was going to be they kept telling me between myself or Billy Bean, who was a kid down in San Diego. And I was saying, that's great. If you do, I'd be excited about playing. I just wanted to play ball, and they came and got me out of class, and there was a photographer who was there, and they took me over by the baseball field area and took a picture, and we got with a New York Met hat and said, "You've been drafted, the first pick in the draft." So it was a great time for me to be able to be selected and have a chance to, play professional baseball. Because that's any kid's dream. I think kids look to that when the draft is coming up. Will I be drafted? You're not for sure. And it doesn't guarantee you, Chris. I think a lot of times people think a #1 pick is a guarantee that he's going to make it to the big league. That's not always a guarantee. There's some lower picks that become better players than #1 draft picks. So you just have to be prepared, when your name is called and where you're going to go and how you're going to be able to produce once you get to the level of having experience.
A young kid like you, Lynchburg, Virginia from LA. How hard was that in a lot of ways, racially as well? How difficult it was for you that first summer?
It was very difficult. I went to Tennessee, and it was different. People were yelling at me, and then I went to Kings I went to Kingsport my first year. Then I went to Lynchburg. Lynchburg was a very hard year, and I had a manager by the name of Gene Dusan. He was just telling me, don't look up in the stands because, people were saying a lot of racial things and a lot of negative things. And I was a young kid, and I was like, man, I really don't want to play baseball anymore because I didn't sign up for this. And I really came close to quitting. And,
Really?
I came close to quitting, and the Mets asked me, well, just try to give it another year. And I went to Double-A. Then I became the Texas League MVP, and then I became a baseball player. And I went on from there to learn how to deal with the criticism and the negative thoughts of other people. It didn't have anything to do with me. Sometimes you think it's personal, about you because you wanted to play and all these expectations, and people have a lot of things to say about you. There were definitely negative, fans booing because of the talent and the expectations,
Right.
I've never got criticized, in the paper from any kind of way. I think it was more about, me slumping and me not living up to the potentials and expectations that people wanted you to live up to. And that's very hard. That's very challenging for any young player, coming into a spotlight every year to try to live up to the demand of what someone else think you should live up to. As a player, that playing the game, how difficult it is. It's not as easy as it looks. It may look easy coming to us, from a fan standpoint and seeing, but it's very hard because every player out there on the field has potentials, and they're good. They're not just in the big leagues because of a name. They're in the big leagues because they can play, and I think a lot of times people don't understand that.
And I know this week you were quoted, and we were discussing it you and I had discussed this for a long time. The Mets made a mistake, and in hindsight, you going to LA was a mistake too. You were born for New York. You won a championship here. You came back here with the Yankees and were a big factor too. You probably should never have signed with LA there in 1990, right?
Well, it was just a really tough decision for me because the Mets, I believe, they shouldn't have never let me get to that point of free agency. I think that 1990 year was just a year I was having a bang year, and I wanted to, make an agreement with them to try to sign a contract, extension contract to stay in New York, and they were like saying, no, well, let's just wait to the end of the season. Once you allow a player to
Right.
go into free agency, you allow the opportunities of other teams to talk to him then. And had not that happened, I probably would have stayed my whole career playing in New York. And I kind of wish I would have stayed there. It was nothing personal against the fans in LA. It was just hometown. Baseball was different, compared to where I was playing in New York. That's all I was saying. And, fans were great, but, it was just a little different atmosphere when you play in New York. New York is a very demanding place. And I needed that because I was a very demanding type of player. I needed the fans to demand me to play well. And that's what was great about playing in New York for so long.
And I remember I was in the ballpark and you came back that day, first day back with the Dodgers, the ball out of the ballpark. If I'm not mistaken, your first day back with the Dodgers at Shea Stadium, did you not?
Oh, that was welcome home. That was my welcome back home, Chris. Just coming back to Shea Stadium, a familiar place. It just seems like every time I came into that ballpark for some reason, with a different uniform on, I would hit a home run there because I was so familiar with that ballpark. And it was just a great ballpark for me to hit in. I think most people don't know I hit a lot of home runs at Shea Stadium. And the backdrop was just perfect for me. I liked it. It was open. It wasn't closed in. Some ballparks are closed in with fans sitting there, but the backdrop was open and it was dark once it gets dark at night.
Great to have you with us, Darryl. Good to see you. You look healthy. You look good. Keep up the good work now, and appreciate a few minutes and go get them. Appreciate you coming on here.
All right. Thanks for having me, Chris. Appreciate it.
You got it. Darryl Strawberry, a great Met way back when. Dodger 2 Giant for a while. Yankees. Nice to have you with us. It's good for Liberty Mutual, good for Rich, and good for Moses. We'll see you down the road early next week here on High Heat.